Hey everybody, welcome to this week's webinar. I'll give others the time to join us and then we'll get going. I'll repeat it, but just for your information, it is the qualification module that we will be going over today. So very fun stuff, very interesting module that we've come out with in the last few months. Got a lot to go over. So as I said, get comfy, get your water, your coffees ready, and then we'll get going shortly. Give them a couple more minutes here, maybe start at 05, and then set up some things on the side to make this a nice, smooth webinar. I saw my colleague do this in French yesterday, and I think it's very smart. So I'll put these email addresses up for you guys. If ever the qualifications module is interesting, or you don't know how to activate it yet and you need it, definitely do not hesitate to contact your customer success managers if you have one, of course, and if you don't, then I will put the support information as well, depending on if you're on a free account or however you onboarded with us. So that's all their information. And La Voix, no typos, all good. So yeah, Gabriel, Julie, and Nil are spectacular onboarding specialists, customer success managers, which is what CSM stands for. They'd be more than happy to help out with any inquiries on this module. Let me just get this guy up here. And this email is super easy. Oh, easy if you could figure out your alt sign. Perfect. And now this should remain here. Aha, perfect. So I'll zoom in on this for the intro. 04 seems like as good a time as any to start. I think we haven't had that many more participants join us, so might as well get the ball rolling. And if anybody joins us, this is all recorded and will be added to the webinar. So for those of you that are already here, if ever you have to turn away for any reason or have to log off for any reason early, keep in mind that you can have access to this video through our website. It should come out 48-ish hours after we're done today. Just make sure we got the audience view up and running. Quick reminder, if it's not your first time, then it won't be your first and it won't be your last time of hearing this, but we do have a question section during these webinars. So feel free to chat with me through there. For some reason, I'm not sure if it's a question of our features being active or not, but we don't have the mic communication with our participants. So please use the questions section if ever you have any questions, comments, or whatever that might be, whatever it may be. Honestly, use it to communicate with me. I'll be sure to have it open on the side. So let's get this going. Welcome to today's webinar, November 20th, 2024. Very happy to be with you guys today. It should be a short-ish one. Keep it as efficient as possible, always for the delivery of information. So should release you a little bit sooner rather than later. All that to say is that we're here to talk about our newest module, being the qualifications module. Really neat module that was added to Evolia. It's a new way of filtering out the proper qualification, quite self-explanatory in its module name, right? We are there to manage the employee's qualifications on top of managing what they are, their employee tags, being the team's positions, locations. Some might already view these as qualifications, but we've added an additional field literally labeled qualifications, which will let us know if these employees are certified for CPR lessons or certifications, which is my example in my demo account, or any kind of certification training, literally whatever you need as a tag, as extra for that qualifying factor, we can add to the account. So just to give you a quick little reintro, maybe some aren't as familiar as others with Evolia, but initially we had the teams, the positions, and locations, which is what you should be seeing on your screen now. Not anymore since I moved my mouse, but give me 2 seconds. So these tags are exactly that. They're the organizational structure, but they also serve as employee tags. So that's why we know that Kim here is qualified to work in such teams and 2 positions and can work at 4 or more locations. You can see quite clearly right under the last one being locations, we've added qualifications. So this is what we're going to talk about today, a new level of filter basically for the employee, once again, to make sure that we're assigning the shift to someone that's qualified, or we're inviting the proper employees based on their qualifications to a shift if we're using open shifts. So if you followed along on that lengthy introduction, you could probably already understand the concept of how this all works, because it's very, very similar to how the system already works with our teams, positions, locations. We can set automated rules so that way the shift understands that every time you create this type of shift, you need these types of qualifications, or you can add manually and then go about that accordingly. So let's jump to our settings and let's dive into this topic. If activated, or once activated, I should say, you'll find in the organizational structure, our qualifications management. Once again, if you need to contact your support, I'll put it at the end, but all the information's up here. Maybe take a quick screenshot, contact our CSMs, our customer success managers, to activate this qualifications module, contact our support. Whatever you do, make sure to just reach out to us and we'll be sure to help out. So that's there. I'll put it back at the end for you guys. Qualifications module, once activated, once again, in the organizational structure. We'll scoot down to the subsection down here. Keep in mind, this is a demonstration account, very, very basic example, super general, but I'm pretty sure you will all be able to capture the concept that we're trying to introduce here. Introduced to our platform, of course. Qualifications is not a new concept at all, but what we're seeing here is really the management of such things in our platform. Right off the bat, we'll create one just to show you a bit more of how that works internally and the configuration of the qualifications. I'm going to go with another CPR because I love my CPR, but the C certification, I believe they're ranked A, B, and C. Nonetheless, it's really just an example. Of course, depending on your languages, the system won't let you continue if you don't do French and English. Let me just do this one. I think French is ACR. Regardless, move forward. Next field is really just what type of qualification this is. So keep in mind, the name is whatever you need, and then the 3 or 4 options we give you, including other, of course, being quite vague. So it's very, very flexible as a feature. It can be really whatever you need as a tag, as an additional tag to qualify the employee. If ever this qualification is being imported when we update employee profiles from an HR system, as our other fields that need to be imported from other platforms, we will use these codes to map both fields for the import and export. So right there, enter your code, do a couple tests, maybe once again with our CSMs to make sure that we're properly configured, and then we are off to the races. Let me just go with the certifications for CPR here. Very straightforward, 2 fields plus the integrations if needed. And then afterwards, it's really the associations. So much like everything else in our system, you have to define if this applies to every team, every position, every location, or the determined team, position, location. We'll give it to my managers. Let's say only my managers are certified level C, and then we'll put them in my retail store. I think it's magasin, Evolia, right? Very straightforward. It's like every other structure element or element of the structure. We tag it to either team position location, or afterwards you'll see we then tag it to the employees so the system makes sense. Last but not least, our little toggle switch down here, apply automatically. So we can have it so that every time we create a shift with this team, with this position, with this location, the system understands that the qualification that we just triggered is needed and will apply automatically. Or toggle off to have more of a manual input. Manual, obviously just the term we're using here, it of course is more manual than automatic, but it'll give you a library of the qualifications you've created, and then you can just click and choose which one you need for that given shift. So that would be the manual versus the automatic, but always still something that's going to give a lot of benefit to the shift assignment procedures and, of course, finding the proper employee. So we'll X this guy out because I really don't need it. I just wanted to show you the concept and introduce you a bit of the module through a quick example. Quick peek at the questions section. I'm not seeing anything, but a reminder that we do have the questions section in GoToWebinar. Please use that to communicate with me, questions, comments, as you wish. My eyes are on it, so I will be responding. Beyond this, of course, as you're seeing in this screen, we can see the qualified employees that are targeted or impacted by this qualification. I'll show you a better screen to see this in just a few moments, but I do want to show you also that you can filter out by your structure to see what qualifications are required for what kind of shift or what kind of need, basically. So if I were to filter out my sales team, of course, you'll see what I've already triggered on my sales team. Moving forward, if ever I were to filter out something that didn't make any sense or just my assembly line workers, you'd see that, of course, this one is set to all teams, positions, locations. So very, very straightforward. It's just a way of seeing what elements of your structure are triggering what qualifications, and then if they're automatic or not will be your lifesaver at the end of the day to make sure that you're not creating more sticks in your wheels than anything else. I myself, as a demonstration specialist, have everything manual, so that way I won't have a bunch of no employees found for this shift. It's always going to give me the option to add a qualification afterwards if I need. But to save you some time, the automatic approach is very, very neat and very, very useful. So moving forward to the employees, what we're going to go and look at in this tab is really, of course, the qualifications themselves. Our newest, I guess, sub-tab, you could call it, which is our employees qualifications, and then how you can import these with our template that we offer, much like every other employee field that we can import. So going into Mark's account, because I'm pretty sure he has these qualifications, and if I'm not mistaken, he has one that's expired. Mark's account at the individual level can be edited, of course, so we can add and remove qualifications. And as you're seeing on the screen now, we can have start and expiry dates. Very, very straightforward. These fields are not, how I should say this, this system is not an HRIS, so keep in mind this is really just to help you schedule. So the system is going to flag if they're expired when you're about to assign, but it's not going to prompt you to let you know, hey, these employees have expirations. We have to have a bit more of a visual management, and as well as those prompts that I'm going to show you at the end, if ever a shift is assigned to someone that has an expiration or an expired certification. So I'll show you all that towards the end, but just keep in mind that this is really to help you with those assignments, with the shift assignments. So set the start dates, set the end dates. We'll keep them expired to show you the visual representation later. Adding them is super straightforward. Once they've been created in our settings, we'll have our library, and then we could toggle them on or off of Mark's account. Of course, now I'm sure we're asking ourselves questions. I don't want to go into every individual employee's profile to be adding their qualifications. No worries about that. We have the import template for you. So employee qualifications is our last option now. And then we could download our template file, which is really just going to show you the different qualifications that you can add, of course, being the ones that are in your account. So maybe not show you the right word, more like it'll have fields for you to enter the qualifications from your account. And then let me just pop this open to give you a quick example. And then you simply add from what employee, what qualification, and then to and from if ever you want to have those expiration dates, and then if you're adding or removing. Very, very straightforward as a template. Simple import. These are, of course, going to be your employee numbers. You can have several lines for the same employee if you're adding several qualifications. All a matter of using the same employee number. Sorry, losing my voice. And then afterwards, add in the right qualifications or removing the right qualifications. So pretty smooth. Once again, though, if you need any help, don't be shy. Our support team is there, or your CSMs will be more than happy to help you with setting this up. Last but not least on this tab, our newest addition to the employee profile module or tab, as you could say. I'm obviously referring to our different modules here as I'm referring to tabs. But when we're in the employee tab, we can now skip right ahead to the qualifications page to see the different qualifications and of course the validity of said qualifications. So if they're active, expired, and if you need to manage them. Very, very simple screen just to show you what's going on. As you can see, my demo account is very, very straightforward and very basic when it comes to the qualification example. But this can be something where you have multiple qualifications per account, and then of course sweeping this screen to make sure everything's nice and dandy for your assignments. So very, very useful. What we can add as well, though, to make this a bit easier, a bit more of a, I guess, customizable screen is have your filters. So that way, if you're managing a lot of qualifications, you can filter out maybe by team, position, location, and then the qualification you want to double check. So always useful to take a peek at our filters in pretty much every one of our tabs, right? Every single one of our tabs, your filters will stay active. So your qualifications is just one that we added to your employee profile. Once again, very useful just to filter out which ones we're trying to target and then see if we have some expirations to manage. As I mentioned earlier, we also give you notifications for any shifts. So let's say you had a recurrence set for Mark. Mark, as you can tell, is my favorite in my account. But Mark here has a recurrence. You know, he works 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, for the remaining of the year. So for the 12 months ahead. And then 6 months down the line, his qualification expires. Well, the system will at least let you know that you have an employee on shifts that are no longer qualified for those shifts. So this is the new field we added in your dashboard. This will also send you push notifications. And then afterwards, it's as simple as managing their qualification accordingly, or quite obviously changing that shift if they're no longer qualified, maybe creating a replacement request for the employee, maybe just swapping it manually. However you manage those situations, we'd want to, you know, of course, get our eyes and get our hands on that to make sure that we don't have an unqualified employee doing a work shift. But this is a screen that will help you, a field, I should say, in your dashboard that will help you manage those qualifications on any shift that's already assigned. So that's mainly speaking to those recurrence shifts. Because if they're not already assigned, as I'm sure you kind of connected the dots, these employees would not be invited, would not be concerned with this shift because they are no longer qualified. And now that we talked about all the fun settings and configuration of the rule or rules, I'll just show you a quick example here on how this all works. It's very, very straightforward once it's all set up. It's made to be intuitive once you're creating your schedules. You don't want to be messing around with how they should react, they should be automated. You want it to just work when you're at this stage. So creating a shift for Wednesday, open shift, the structure of the shift itself doesn't really matter, but I'll show you that creating this shift here for these sets of this set of my structure, sales rep, store, and the sales team, I have quite a big list here of employees that are qualified and available. Of course, I've got a few that do not, but as you can see here, quite a few options here. Qualifications, main topic of this webinar, only topic of this webinar. As I said earlier, I always have the manual so I can run this demonstration. You would probably have them automatic, so that way you don't have to go through this library unless you wanted to have it more of a pick and choose depending on the use case of the shift. I add CPR. You'll see that my list that had probably around 15 or so employees is now down to 3 employees due to my qualifications. and it's not because they're not qualified. That's why I made sure to clear the schedule in the back. Mark here is the guy that I use the most and made sure that he was expired. You can see it's very, very simple. The system understands that the qualification is expired. They're no longer recommended for this shift. They won't be recommended to you for the assignment if you're going more on a manual assignment. And then as we're doing here with the invitations, they won't be in the invitation list. That being said, long explanation for that, but these lists for those that are users of Evolia are the same, right? The list that you're getting from this recommendation compared from an open to an assigned shift are the exact same list. What changes at the invitation is the invitation level when you're in an open shift. It's just the order. We're always going to target the qualified and available employees, and available being a key word there, because if you have an invitation list that, let's say, ignores availabilities, you'd have a bit more employees in that case, or depending on your phases there, but that's a different webinar topic. So very, very straightforward module once it's in place. I would argue that it's very straightforward to put in place as well. It's really just a question of creating the qualification, certification, training, other, as we saw, and then assigning it to the right structure and then managing accordingly with that structure in place, either automatic or, as we just saw, with our library manual approach here. I'll wait for questions before logging off. As I said, it was a pretty short webinar. I think I did it exactly the same timing as the French webinar yesterday, which was unintentional. I wasn't trying to speed this up. It's just that this module is quite self-explanatory once we get the configuration down. But to show you that we do give you visual prompts here as well. So those qualifications, that's why I left Mark's as expired. You can clearly see it has expired for quite some time now. We would probably contact Mark or make sure that Mark books his next training for his CPR update or refresh course. That being said, maybe not the most important for my salespeople to have qualifications such as CPR, but once again, really just for the sake of the example. Bring it back to our dashboard here to show you the information I left us. And then if no questions come in within the next few minutes, I'll wish you all a very good day. So I take it, due to the silence in the question section, that it was a very clear webinar and that there are no questions. As I've been saying, if ever you do have questions that spawn in the next 5 to 10 minutes following this webinar, which is usually the case, do not hesitate. Don't be shy. Our team is there to help out, whether you go through your dedicated customer success manager, if you have one, or if you just go through our support helpline, phone or email. We have dedicated tech support agents that are there to hop on the tickets that come in, deal with the cases, and then if needed, get other parties of the team involved. So we're very dedicated to our customer base, and then we wish to make this a very easy tool for you to use and for your employees, of course, to engage with. So after that spiel, I'll give you all back, I think is 5 minutes. They book these for 30 or 45 minutes even. So 20 minutes of your day. So you're very welcome. But in all seriousness, thank you very much for logging in. Thanks for paying attention, and hopefully we get to meet again on our next week's webinars. So I wish you all a very good day. Take care.